Hey everybody. Um, Hopefully you're watching this video after checking out the Orbeez introduction video. I'm just going to help you kind of get started on figuring out how to set up an experiment, okay? So you should have a bag of these interesting little um, Orbeez. You talk about what Orbeez appear to be based on what you saw in the video and what you see in front of you here. You could even use one or two and play around with them, or five, or however many you want to, and play around with them. But you're going to want to use some of these Orbeez to answer some sort of research question. Okay? Now, for me, the research question that I'm going to look at trying to answer is how many Orbeez dry would fill up one cup, and how many Orbeez wet would fill up this cup, right? So I'm going to actually figure out how much Orbeez grow. Like what's the ratio that it takes to fill up a cup if they're dry, and what's the ratio that it takes to fill up a cup if they're wet. Again, you can come up with any research question that you can do an experiment with these Orbeez to solve, okay? You could compare how much Orbeez grow in water versus milk. You could compare what happens to Orbeez when you put them outside and freeze them. It's going to be super cold this weekend. Be creative, figure out what you want to do. Again, you don't have enough to fill up a swimming pool. So I'm going to type in my question. All right, as you can see, I said, how many Orbeez does it take to fill up a paper cup dry versus wet? That is my research question. And then my hypothesis is that I think it will take 2,000 Orbeez to fill up the cup dry and 20 to fill up wet. Next, I need to come up with my experimental setup and the steps I need to take. So I'll type that in next and then talk about it. Okay, so now what I've done is I've explained my setup, right? So 2 cups of the same size. I'll have my dry Orbeez, and then later when I do my experiment, I will have some water. And my step-by-step is to fill a cup with dry Orbeez and count how many it takes. I'm gonna use a jar filled with water to hydrate my Orbeez and wait 3 days till they're fully hydrated. And then place my wet Orbeez in a paper cup and count how many it takes to fill to the top. And then I was clear with my setup that I'm not going to count Orbeez that are over the top, right? So either my dry or the wet, neither one should be over the top. I want to be clear so that somebody could repeat my experiment and do it the same way I did. So what will I be measuring? What will I be counting? I'll be counting the number of Orbeez in a cup. And then I'm ready for when I actually do my experiment to collect my data. So I have a place to write down how many dry Orbeez and a place to write down how many wet Orbeez. All right, everybody, here I am a few days later. I've done my experiment. And interestingly, I didn't have enough Orbeez to fill the cup. So what I did is I filled the cup with my dry Orbeez, and then I cut the top of the cup off. So I sized the cup to the total number of Orbeez I had. I ran into a problem, but I found a solution. So 204 dry Orbeez fit in a cup. And then I hydrated them and I found 28 wet Orbeez in a cup. The next section says data analysis. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to find the ratio. I'm going to see how big Orbeez get. So I'm going to do a ratio. Okay, so I found that 204 dry Orbeez takes up the same amount of space as 28 hydrated Orbeez, which means that wet Orbeez are 7.28 times larger than dry Orbeez. Okay? Now, in conclusion, I was wrong. I thought that 2,000 Orbeez would be the same size as 20 Orbeez, which would mean they grow 200 times larger. All right, to finish up this video, I'll let you know that I didn't actually find 7.28. If you want to do this ratio, if you want to set up an experiment to find the ratio, that's great. But this is how you would do it if you were going to do it. So go ahead, have some fun, and play around with Orbeez. And then we'll see you next week. We're going to talk about